Hey everyone, Model Man Frank here. How is everybody doing tonight? Happy Father's Day to the fathers out there. Hope everybody had a good Sunday and a good week. And you're all able to enjoy it with your families and your loved ones and so on. Or for you dads, I hope you were able to actually enjoy your day. We are going to talk about. So, just to give you guys a heads up, if you're watching this for the first time, after you watch the program, hit the thumbs up button. Helps out the algorithm, so more people will be able to see me. And hit the subscribe button if you're a first time watcher or a first time listener, or you watch it all the time and you like some of the content that I put out. I also posted in the community boards where you put your picture, a survey there for any of you that have watched the podcast before or this live stream, just to put out to see who would like to see different things, not only aircraft history, but we can also talk about model airplane stuff, which I'll have a little stuff. I'll have something to talk about after we're done with the program today. Also, I'm on Patreon. If you guys want to go over there, again, Patreon is free. It's not Facebook. It's not Twitter. It's not Reddit or Gab or any of the other social platforms. It's just basically a platform for me to be able to put out content directly to you. Post articles, things that I find on the web. You can go right there, and it'll even send you an email when something I've posted is there. You can go straight there, and it'll have one-on-one content, and you can make comments, and we can talk back and forth a little bit more about things. And if you want to, you can even send me an email through there if you see something that's interested of talking about. One of the things that I wanted to talk, I'm sure many of you watched the program last week about me doing the update of, showing you guys how I build airplanes and what aircraft I'm working on. As you can see behind me, the Puss Moth is being worked on. I still have to get the red paint for it. I found a satin paint, not a satire paint, a red satin paint that's at Lowe's. I think it was at Lowe's or Home Depot, but I am going to get that, and that's what I'm going to cover that in. I also found Aero Gloss, which is the old dope, and I'm going to cover the wings in that. That way it's a good sealer for it. And I'm going to try a couple of different mediums also about using. I want to try some things out. One of them is silk. I want to try about covering planes in silk and see what that would turn out like. I've heard that's really cool, and I've watched a couple of videos online about it. But tonight's airplane, again, this is, sorry, you go over here, you can follow me on Patreon. Again, remember, Patreon is free. And if you want to donate, you're more than welcome to do so. You can go right there, and you can donate to the cause. Again, it helps me out. I like doing this. I love doing this, and I'd love to be able to do it more often for you. But, life calls, and, it helps out any which way it can. If you hear any rumbling in the background, it's because we have a couple of thunderstorms moving here through the central part of the state where I live, and we have rain happening outside as we speak. So, tonight's broadcast, we're talking about the IAI Aero Commander, which was built by WestJet, or the Aero Commander company. This aircraft, if no one has ever heard of it, it's a unique airplane. It was originally designed by the United States, and then later on, after the U.S. designed the plane, it was the Aero Commander, the 690. It was a turbine prop airplane. I have a couple of shorts of one taking off and landing at the airport I used to work at, that airport I worked at. And if you type in the 690 Aero Commander 690 or the 609, you'll actually pull up that plane, and they used the same fuselage to make the jet version. I'm talking about it because it's a unique plane. Not a lot of people will talk about unique aircraft. There are some guys out there that will focus their attention onto unique planes and show you those unique planes. Everybody wants to talk about the Learjet, the Gulfstream. I like to talk about unique airplanes that I don't see a lot of people talking about. And the Aero Commander is one of those aircraft. It's one of those planes that you just look at and you're wondering, where did this plane and where did the thought process come from? So, this is the jet. Something unique you see about the plane. If you've ever looked at the Aero Commander 690 or the 609, I don't know why I keep saying 690. It is the 609. No, it is the 690. I'm sorry. But if you look at this plane, you'll notice that it sits very low to the ground. They use the Aero Commander, which is the Turbo Commander. They use the same fuselage of both aircraft, give it that low profile. And to save money, they created this aircraft. Now, only 442 of these aircraft were built between 1963 until the aircraft was stopped production in the early 1980s. And so originally designed by the United States, then IAI, which is Israeli the Israelis took it over, and they started building the aircraft. The original choice for the engines were GE CJ610 turbojet engines, so it was really a loud plane. But it was a plane built for a purpose. Something interesting about this plane is that companies did like the plane because of its performance. The first flight for this aircraft was on the 27th of January, 1963. So it was ahead. It was an airplane that was kind of coming out at the same time as the Learjet and other aircraft. It was developed, yes, from the AC-690. So the same frame that you see here on that aircraft is the 690. The 690 was a high-wing aircraft with turboprops or pistons aircraft. It actually came out first with piston engines, and then a lot of them started changing. They started changing over to a turboprop engine. The aircraft's name was originally the Westland Commander. The 1121 was the prefix of the aircraft. And the plane, when it started to show up at airports, was unique. People could see right off the bat what the uniqueness was about it. Later down the line, the 1123, the cabin was lengthened. The cabin was lengthened by 1 foot. And believe me, a 1 foot really makes a big difference. Also, wingtip tanks were installed, as you can see here with the plane. You can see that the wingtips tanks, and then later on down the line, there were also these winglets that were also added to it. And also some of the planes were fitted with TFE 731-3 turbofans from Garrett. So Garrett motors were actually put on this aircraft. The plane is used a lot by air ambulance companies, and I'm going to give you a reason why they do this. If you notice, the plane sits very low to the ground. It has a very low ground clearance. And when you're loading a passenger, or you're doing something where you need to get persons on and off the plane, you want to be able to have that low clearance to the aircraft. This plane is very easy to get in and out of. And this is the plane right here. As you can see it, it is a very low slung plane. Very easy to rotate. From the people that I've talked to when they used to come to the airport, I used to ask them questions. It was a very nice plane to fly. Very forgiving aircraft. You just had to be careful, of course, not overloading the aircraft, or else it would sit to the floor. And you also had to be careful of over rotation. Something you're going to find very unique about this plane is if you look at the G100, which IAI also builds, the Astrojet, the tail is the same tail on the Astrojet. Look up Gulfstream 100 and you'll see what I'm talking about. That tail is pretty much the same tail. Actually, the whole empennage from the wings back is almost identical. Also, the engine sizes of the different aircraft, it was basically a step up from this particular plane. So the plane is very used. As you can see, the plane sits very low to the ground, and it's easy for a person to get in and out, especially if you're on a stretcher. So one thing that I used to do when I worked at the airports is that, I'm trying to make this bigger for you guys so you can really see what I'm talking about here, is when you saw the plane taxiing or sitting on the ground, there's a door on the opposite side of the aircraft. The door was very low to the ground, so it'd be easy enough to get a passenger inside who was on a stretcher. The door was close to the ground, so you'd be able to get that person up inside and be able to manipulate it. The fuselage wasn't very wide, but you could move them around in such a way that you'd be able to get them in. If your plane is too high up, it's hard to get those people in and out of the aircraft. Egress and ingress is very difficult. A lot of the planes that would come to the airport for medical transport were Learjets and this plane. I saw mostly Learjets, but I did see a couple of these also used for like transplant recipients, ferrying organs to different airports, different hospitals for transplant. Specifically, one time, a person who was having a kidney transplant, they had found them a kidney in southern Florida. They had to stop at our airport to pick up a doctor, and then they were heading off to Gainesville for a kidney transplant. And Lord knows if that person ever got that kidney. God bless them if they did. And that person hopefully survived because of this jet. One thing that people don't understand is that general aviation, in terms of corporate jet travel, is not just for the elites. It's also used for life-saving measures. It's used in everyday life, and as much as you probably hear on the news, the elites are flying on their corporate jets. Those are charter companies. They are different. A lot of corporate jets are used for medical purposes and also for transporting other people around. It's a nice way to be able to get in and out of small airports, not being seen. When you fly on commercial, you're basically loading onto a Greyhound bus and you're flying to your destination. More people should be doing it. Yeah, it saves a little bit of money and gas and all that sort of stuff, and it does save the environment. But on the other hand, it also brings business to those small airports. The airports that are where the big airliners fly, they don't fly to these small airports, so they bring money and they bring dollars to small town airports like the ones that I work at. So this jet specifically would fly into our airport for certain issues of medical transport. We'd also get some Canadian ones that flew in and would pick up Canadian patients to take them home, snowbirds that came to visit, and they'd be heading home to get medical care, and then they'd fly back, a couple of days later after their medical care was finished. So, very unique airplane in its long aspect of the way it was built, and the Israeli Air Force actually used the plane. They do have a couple in their pile of weaponry that they use, and they have theirs is used for counter surveillance. So that one there, as you can look at the top of the aircraft there, you can actually see. I'm going to just blow it up here so you guys can see it. This is a good photo here. See those antennas on top? They're radio monitors. There's a blister on the side there. It's probably most likely for jamming signals or reaching in, and then you've got radar in the front, probably tracking of some sort. That is a Garrett engine on there, as you can see, just by the sheer size of the aircraft motor. And you can see that the nose have that big bulbous to it. The window on the, I would say what, port side? Yeah, that's the port side window, is a bulbous. So also probably used to look out the window when they're flying over the ocean, if they're using that aircraft for surveillance or search and rescue. And you can see that the door is very low to the ground also, so that's where you can actually see where it would be easy for egress and entrance to the aircraft if they were transporting somebody, or if that person was going to be flying to a different, to a hospital or something like that, if this aircraft was used as a medical transporter. But yeah, the Israeli Air Force owns them. They have a couple of them in their fleet, and they use it for monitoring and surveilling the Outer Banks of Israel and their country. So 442 of these aircraft were built, and for a while they wanted to also try and make a model where those engines would be slung on underneath the wing. One was built to see if they could get it to work, and maybe they could make some sales, generate sales, but the aircraft never really generated sales after that. When those sales went away, the plane ceased being built, and the plane still flies today. A lot of the ones that are flying today still have parts. There's a lot out there that are being used or scrapped and used for spare parts. There are many spare parts able to be used. Not a lot of spare parts, but there are some. With 440, actually between 442 and 445 is the amount, give or take, of those aircraft that were built. The AC-690 is an airplane that's also with small numbers. Aero Commander did build quite a number of 690s from the six-cylinder piston engine Lycomings. I think they use Lycoms or Continentals. I'm not exactly sure. Yeah, the nose looks like a match. You're right. But you would look at that plane, and there would be the 690. They would change it out eventually later on, putting turboprops. I believe they were Garrett turboprops not so much the PT6 turboprops, but that aircraft also being a very fast plane. The 690 you'll see more often as the 690C, the 690BE, more so than the WestJet, than the 1121. The 1121 being that there was not a lot in numbers built, there were more of the C6 of the A690. I could give you an accurate number of how many of that aircraft were actually built. And let me look that up for you guys while I'm here. So, let's see. Aero Commander. I have different ways to look it up also. Here we go, 690. As a matter of fact, if you ever look up Bob Hoover, Bob Hoover had one. And his aircraft was unique. It was completely stripped out inside. And he used to perform at different air shows all around the country. Oshkosh was a big air show. He would do the Reno air races, and he did Sun and Fun a couple of times. But he would do things, and he would do a stunt show with the aircraft. He would actually put the aircraft in rolls and maneuvers and just do so many things with the Aero Commander that you wouldn't normally see with another aircraft. He was a big seller of the aircraft. 2,902 aircraft were built from 1951. So that aircraft was in business for a long time. Aero Design Engineering Company, and then Aero Commander, Rockwell Standard Corporation, North American Rockwell, Rockwell International, and then moved over to Gulfstream. So, you know, it was a very interesting plane. The plane, the 690 itself was also an interesting concept of an aircraft. I'm actually going to give you guys a show of this, which aircraft this is. And once, if you can't place it in your head, once I show you which the aircraft is, then you'll be like, oh, I know which one he's talking about. I've seen that plane before. And you're going to see how it's so similar to the 1121. It's very similar in the way that the fuselage sits. And it's very, very similar. The only difference is this one has piston engines, does not have the turboprops. I'm going to show you this aircraft, and you'll look at it and say, oh, I've seen that plane before. There's one at so-and-so airport. So, yeah, that's the 690. That's the piston version. The piston version had... It was the model... so the piston versions were used, and then later on, 900... So there were 1,951 of the piston versions made. And then later they were all converted to turboprops, and then 951 models of the turboprops were made. Many of them were converted to turboprops. Not all of them, but maybe there are some that were converted. Also, there were winglets added to the aircraft to give it more stability in the air, and just give it an all-around better handling characteristics of this aircraft. This plane, if you see it at an airport close by, it's almost like a rock star. A lot of people see it and they're like, wow, that's a cool plane. But when you get close to it, you're like, wow, this plane's really short to the ground. I want to see if I can get one that's got people next to it. Ah, here we go. This is even better. I got one here that way you can see how low it sits to the ground. And if you can think about putting jet engines on it, you can actually see what the aircraft looked like. Sorry, guys, my hair is itchy. I don't know why. So I'm able to do a little bit more manipulating here because I got a mouse now. So if you hear me clicking and clacking and all that sort of stuff, it's because I got a mouse. It helps me out a lot here. But so the C90, I'm sorry, the 690C is the piston version. The turbo version is a 690 Turbo or T model. And the plane sits low. Now you're going to see what this aircraft looked like as a low-slung aircraft that it was. Oh, can't make it too big because it'll take up just the way it sits. As you can see there, the plane has a certain stance to it. From the ground to the tail is 174 feet? No. It's like, oh, that's 174 meters. They go by meters here. 76. So, I mean, the plane sits pretty. It's a very unique aircraft, as you can see. I don't have the actual numbers of the plane, but you know what? Let's look at it in my book here. This book is heavy, and we'll pull it up here. Let's see, Aero Commander. You know, I should have had this written down, right? But as what's great about this show, everybody likes watching it because I always have something new that I want to talk about, and the way I do stuff on here makes you guys, keeps you guys guessing. You know what? I can't find it right now. It's probably going to take a little while here. Let's look under Rockwell. So, the Aero Commander itself, the dimensions were 44 feet in length. Okay, it had, the wingspan was 44 feet. The length of the airframe was 52 feet. The height of the aircraft was 15, okay, and 9.5 inches. 15 feet and 9.5 inches. This is almost 16 feet tall. And the wing area was 308, 26 square feet. But again, if you look at the tail of the Aero Commander, the Astra, which is the 1125, and the Rockwell Commander, which you see here, is pretty much the same thing. It had the same lines to the aircraft. Now the Rockwell, which, give me a moment and I will get you those. The Rockwell Commander, so the wingspan was 49 feet long. It was 36 feet in the length. It was a shorter frame, and so was the wingspan was a little bit longer. It was shorter but longer. The height from the floor to the top of the top of the tail was 14 feet and 6 inches. So pretty similar in type of aircraft. But that was, you know, airplanes that were built back in the 60s and they were just unique. And I don't know, planes that are coming out, I don't know what you guys all think about it. Maybe leave a comment in the comment field down below. But I think, you know, planes that are coming out now, they're just, you know, it's like they're grabbing designs from before and saying, you know what, we're going to build it. We're going to build something new and say we're going to build something new, but we're going to use something old to build it new. They just can't think of anything original. And now they're coming out with flying bugs, I call them, you know, because they have the little rotors and it's all electric and, you know, it's all about short hops. it's not about the feel of enjoying the flight to get from point A to point B. You know, it's just a whole different aspect of flying nowadays. So that's it. That's all I can talk about the IAA, Rockwell Aero Commander, the 112-1, and the 690. I wanted to talk about a little bit about model airplaning. Last week, so this past Saturday, I went flying, and I had a friend of mine who came up to the field, and he was asking. He had a problem where his RV-7 crashed into the ground like almost 2 weeks before. And it was kind of funny because the plane crashed into the ground, and it actually he hit the floor, and then he bounced back up, and the plane, the prop, the blade flew off, and the plane was still trying to maintain, and then it crashed to the ground again. But his tail, he couldn't get the tail to get back on. So I told him there's a way that I do the tails, and when I put something back together, or I'm doing something or building an airplane, any one of these planes here, I don't use glue. The problem with glue is that it wears out over time, and yes, it will pop off. I do use glue, but I make my own hinges. As you can see in here, I have these are actually from a soda can, and I made these hinges from a soda can. This is the tail surfaces from a Super Cub that I have, Super Cruiser Super Cub that I have over here. And basically what I did is I made little tabs, and then I just slide them, I put them in, and it makes them. Now, the best thing to do, and I'll make a long format video of what you can use, but this one here, I just decided, I had an aluminum can to use, and it worked just fine for me. So I used the aluminum can, and it makes a really good hinge. The hinges that they sell, Dubro sells, and a couple other companies sell, or SIG sells, are the little hinges that you see with little dots inside. Those are garbage. What you want to do is you don't have to even buy material to make one of those hinges. You can get clear flexible plastic from either a bottle, a milk jug, drink the milk first, or a bottle of soda or something like that, and just cut a little piece, and that will be your hinge. So when you're building your aircraft or doing anything like that, you can use this. And I'll put out a long format video, something that you guys can watch over and over again to actually show you how to do this. Because he was asking me, he couldn't believe that he was doing that. That was the easiest solution to fix that problem. I'll do it. Actually, I have to do a repair on one of my airplanes with the flap. It's the Viper that's over here sitting up in the air, and the flap hinge is worn out because the foam, after over time, it's too many landings, it starts to crack and it falls off. But I'll show you guys how you can do that, and I'll put out a video maybe either sometime this week or next week. Just look for it right here on this channel. So just to reiterate, next week we're going to talk about RC planes. So we'll talk about a specific aircraft. I'll put my my camera over here on the table, and we'll talk about one of my planes that I'm working on. I'll show you the things that I'm doing with it, and what I'll be doing is I'll be breaking up the different histories. We'll do certain different aviation chats on Sunday night. So because next Sunday night I don't have anything planned in terms of what type of planes. Now, anybody who answered the question, what type of plane, in the community post that I had posted of a airplane with two engines on top called a Dolphin. That is what that is. It's called a Douglas Dolphin. Some guys, they looked at it and they thought it was a Sikorsky, or it was no, it's a Douglas Dolphin. If you want to look up some information about the Douglas Dolphin, go online. I think they have one at the Wright-Patterson. There's one gentleman that actually owns one somewhere in the globe, somewhere in the United States, and I think the Chino Air Museum has one also, and I think Pensacola has one also. They were built before the Albatross. One person actually said it was an Albatross. This aircraft came out way before the Grumman Albatross. Had very unique design features to it, and if you get a chance, go online and take a look at it. The Douglas Dolphin. So, for tonight, that's all I've got really to say. If you guys can, again, follow me over on Patreon. I'll be posting some articles on there once in a while for different planes that I see of interest that maybe you guys would like to read about. And next week we'll talk about RC planes. Preferably, I am actually going to probably talk to you guys on how to do this. And we will also do, sorry about that. We will talk about, I'm going to give you guys an update on some of the planes that I'm working on in the shop. Specifically the Puss Moth, which you see at the top of my finger here. I'm also working on putting some other planes back up in the air that I've had some crashes with. I always like to, before I build another plane, because if I start another project, I'm not going to have room. I'd like to try and get some of the other planes finished that I haven't finished completely. Preferably the Puss Moth, the Super Cub, the Piper Tri-Pacer, and if you can look at the tail right here, you can see it, the storage. I put I put two servos in the storage, and I put the new receiver in it, and you will see soon. Hopefully we can get it up and flying. I gotta do some other stuff to it, but we'll make some videos on it also. Again, if you could hit the thumbs up button. If you can't really hit two thumbs up, but hit the thumbs up button. Subscribe if you have not become a subscriber yet, and also hit the bell icon. It'll let you know when we go live every Sunday night, 7:30 p.m., 4:30 Pacific, right here on this channel. I go live. So if you also would like to read some of the postings, go over to Patreon, and it's Model Man Frank. Go to Patreon, sign up. It's free. Type in Model Man Frank, and you can see some postings are going to be free. Some postings are, you have to pay the monthly due for that. So, guys, have a great rest of the Sunday night. Enjoy, and I will see you guys on the next broadcast. Thank you very much for watching.